Live action. Shop cat, come here. Shop cat reveal. Come here, shop cat reveal. Come here. Come here. Yeah, I know. Come on. You're all wet. Being outside, come here. Hey. Shop cat reveal. Hey. This is Maya, the second shop cat. Go do your thing, girl. What's up, guys, and welcome back to another FSP transmissions video. Today we have a 1989 700R4, and if the audio sounds a little bit different, it's because we got a completely new setup now, and it's all thanks to you guys and the support on the FSP transmissions channels throughout the social media networks. We've been able to afford a brand new camera, brand new microphones, we got a halo light. I've been able to afford my buddy coming over here to help me, so it's all working out really well, and I just wanted to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning into my videos and supporting me. There's a lot of hate out there, but for the most part, you guys are pretty dang nice, so I just want to say thanks. And this transmission specifically, I'm going to be tearing this thing completely down, step by step, showing you guys what I look for on the professional side of things. Tomorrow, I'm going to be doing a full-on build video of this transmission, so when you see the teardown video drop, the next day, the build video will be up, and I'm going to be putting a lot of performance parts in here, so you guys are not going to want to miss that. Anyway, thank you guys so much for all the continuous support. Things are looking up here at FSP Transmissions. Thanks for tuning in. Now, when you get into a transmission or an engine or any type of mechanical apparatus, you want to separate your bolts and your hard parts from each other. You're just going to get these parts nice and clean when they're separated and all the gunk's not stacked up on top of each other. A lot of these parts are circular and they stack up like pancakes, and you'll have residue sitting all around them. So it's really good practice to separate your bolts from your bigger parts and put your bigger parts separated in your washer. Now, I do have this parts washer here, and I also use my pressure washer outside. A lot of you guys on Instagram have been wondering and I guess assuming that I don't have a parts washer. This is one, another one's right behind you there, and my pressure washer's outside. The reason why I don't put these cases directly into the washer is because all the thick grime is going to get right into the bottom of that, and we don't want that sediment in there. We keep these things super clean. All right, first things first, you want to take off your speedometer here, then your governor cap. We're doing a full rebuild on this thing. So that means all the parts come out and all the parts get looked at and all the parts need to be replaced, get replaced, plus extras. So your 10mm bolt here holds your speedometer on. This pyrometer here sometimes can be a booger, especially the old plastic ones. The old plastic ones break into pieces. But you got to get this off and get back there to that 15mm bolt that holds the tail housing on there. Now, in the last video I did, this pulled out. This is a newer pyrometer here. So the seal in the back is non-existent, and it just runs off the internal gear here. And put your bolt. You have two here, one for your big ones like we talked about, one for the small ones. So you want to keep everything together, and the fluid's already coming out of this thing and it smells really burnt and don't smell too good at all. Which hammer should I use, guys? Huh? Which one? Claw hammer? Claw hammer, yeah. Claw hammer, yeah. Let's pop this cap off. Somebody's Loctited this before. Smart. Now, you don't want to poke a hole in that, so you don't want to hit down on it because you'll poke a hole in that very easy. That can be just beat back with a hammer. Don't protrude the metal there. And make sure when you go back and put this on that you clean all this residue off here, because it will leak around there where that old Loctite's been on there. And I know all you guys in the comment section, you can't use Loctite on a transmission. But on these old 700R4s and 350s and the stuff that I work on, yes, you do. Now, when you pull your governor out, you want to make sure that your journals in between your valve here aren't worn out, because this sleeve, you can put a you can put a bronze sleeve in here and press it in, but this one looks to be okay. There's just some minor scratches there, but it's not protruding the metal. And we're gonna pop off this tail housing. And I know you guys are gonna get mad at me, but I do this every time. And I don't hurt any of the parts. You're like, oh God, oh Tyler, you can't hit a seal with a claw hammer. It's like, yeah, I can. Watch me. Look at that. It didn't hurt nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. It's all good, guys. Everything's great. All right. We'll see if this will pop it off, but normally you gotta have the air gun for those. Oh, well. Sometimes you're surprised. Sometimes they're looser than you expect. Sean? Kids show? Sorry. Damn thing, when they get hot like that, they freaking break anyway. Get that seal off, you don't need that. Alright, next is your TV cable if you still have it on like this guy does, which is fine. That's not the right bolt for that. This is #1 cause of your failure right here is when this TV cable is not set right. It'll stack shift and it'll end up burning up your $700R4. So you got to have your TV cable set tight. Get a screwdriver in behind this. No more shoddy zooming. Alright. Clamp this on the outside tit here. Kids show, it's fine. Pull that out. There's a lot of corrosion there and behind there. You want to get a 90-degree seal pick and get in behind your O-ring. Normally it's blue. This one's green. This may be a stock transmission unless somebody just did a patch job. And pull that out like a snake. I'm a snake. Yeah, there's not even a Corvette servo in it. I think this 700's bone stock. And he put it behind 550 horsepower, I reckon. I guess that's why it needs rebuilt. So, yeah. Put that servo over there. We're getting a Corvette servo for it. And the only thing we're going to reuse off that is just the spring on the outside, I believe. And we might get a shift kit for it, and it may come with a shift kit. So, that may not even be completely true. Alright, once you've got your TV line undone, your servo out, your governor out, your tail housing off, your speedometer gear off, you can now flip your transmission over onto your table and drain it and inspect the fluid. Hang on, John. Heat is on and there it goes. Got it! Yeah! That was a close one. That was a close one. God dang. That was close. We about made a big, big mess. Chance favors the prepared mind, ladies and gentlemen. And I was prepared. Man, look at that. Yeah, it smells rough. A lot of you guys that watch this channel knows exactly what this smells like, and man, it'll smell up your whole shop. But you wonder why I got both doors open right now. I would have a fan on if I didn't have these mics in here, but yeah, this thing stinks. And everything on the transmission's got to go back the way it came out, pretty much. I mean, unless you get good enough to manipulate how the system works, you know. Oh yeah, man, that's roasted. That's roasted, ladies and gentlemen. That's rough. That's freaking about as brown as Cleveland. God dang it. The character off Family Guy. Sorry. Alright, this is your auxiliary 700R4. Here's your auxiliary port. Now they put this auxiliary port in there to soften the shift from garage shifts. So when you're going from drive or going from park to drive, the vehicle used to lunge forward super hard. So they put this accumulator assembly in here to soften that shift. And there's a couple other things too I'll add at the end of the video. Oops, wrong basket. Now you have a special bolt that you want to pay attention to, and that's the one that is painted yellow. This bolt is the only bolt of its kind in this transmission, so you've got to make sure that this goes back specifically where it came out of, and that is holding the hose onto the auxiliary port. I like to slide that back on when I put it with my bolts, and it rarely falls off. We're going to pop the auxiliary hose off here. And that is for your forward piston right here. He uses a flathead screwdriver for everything. I know. And these are all 10mm here. It looks like somebody may have put a shift kit in it at one point in time with that spring being colored the way it is. There's a red spring in there, but they didn't put a Corvette servo in it, and that's just kind of whack. Ooh, that bolt was tight too, so I doubt they aligned these bolts properly. There might be a little spot in the, sometimes there's a spot in the separator plate where you, when you don't assemble and you don't install this completely straight, it puts it into a bind and it'll lift that plate up, and it can cause cross flow under the valve body, cross leaking rather. Let me pull this. This is your accumulator cap. We don't block this one off, just block the 1-2 off. But we do have to take it out. If you don't take these out, you'll have a cross leak around here, and you also have to watch inside of these accumulators too. That can end up being an egg shape, and the fluid can also bypass in the middle there along that freaking little shaft here. We're going to pull our accumulator, our auxiliary port here off, and the one is a 8mm, sorry, and that's another bolt that is one of its kind in this transmission. You don't want to lose that. There's a check ball under this that goes in a specific spot. Okay, it's still in the case there. You can see it down in there. You don't want to lose that either. Now these here are also 8mm, and you're going to have a spring and an accumulator in here as well. You can strip these really easy, but I'm a professional, so don't be using an impact. You need to put it in a vise sometimes and actually use a wrench and break them free, but risk it if you want. And there's your spring. Sometimes these can be broken. They added that in there so the fluid goes in here and it softens the shift from park to drive into the forward clutch pack, so it's not as abrupt and violent like it used to be in those old from 1982 to 1986 pre-auxiliary. Pre-auxiliary always shift harder going in and drive. And again here with the, and you can see this one's a little wobbly, so it's kind of worked its way into an X shape, so we're going to have to replace this accumulator piston. Gotta watch for stuff like that. Gotta watch for stuff like that. That'll be a comeback, if not. So this is gonna go over here, keep that away from everything else. We're gonna pull our lockup solenoid out and see if it's got a filter in the bottom of it. If it's got a filter in the bottom of it, we're gonna pop it out. It doesn't, it's an aftermarket. Pop this free, and there's a clip in here, right in behind here, that holds that inner wire harness on. Just like that. A lot of times this can be brittle too, so be careful. We're gonna throw this over here as well. Get that off the table. All right, now you're ready to take your valve body free. Make sure all your bolts are free off the valve body. You can take your little screwdriver up top and just give it a nice little, just a little push. And it's stuck to the separator plate. That's okay. This is your manual valve. Slide that out like that. Pull the separator plate off here. Hopefully the gasket doesn't stick to the valve body. And it did, god dang! Yeah, wet, put it in the washer, put it in the hot water. And this plunger valve is one thing I wanted to touch on when we got this loose. There should be 2 or 3 check balls in here. I only put 2 back in, 2 in the bottom, so we'll take these 2, throw them back in our tray there. Anyway, you can see that this plunger valve is a little wore out already. I can tell by just looking at it. It needs to be exposed up to here, that way there's always constant pressure, and this valve actually moves as one, and it just works better that way because you have a lot of give here. There's a lot of play there. You want this thing to be all the way in, all the way out, and this aluminum piece here, and we'll pull it out in a second and show you, they're starting to, the fluid's starting to bypass this aluminum sleeve and this metal, so I'm going back with the Sonax plunger valves to fix that problem, so no more stack shifting after 20,000 miles for you guys, and I'm sorry for the 2 customers that had to go through that. I do apologize. Something that is kind of new. That we had never really touched on before. Let me get my needle nose. So I'm going to show you how to pop out this plunger valve while I have the transmission just sitting here like this. You've got a little dowel pin here, and these can be a freaking booger to get out. I mean, these can be really hell to get out at times, so be very freaking careful. Don't hit yourself in the eye. And wear safety glasses if you feel the need to. All right, there's one. We're going to set that to the side. Flip it over. And there's one located here under this gasket. So we got to pry that gasket up. There it is right there. We're going to get our needle nose in there and pry this one out as well, just like that. This one was nice to us, thank God. Now we're going to pull this plunger out with our vice grips. And it should come out nice and easy. Walk it out. Alright, so this thing right here is what's been wearing out, and there's a little bit of rigidity there, and you want to feel some, but going back with a Sonax plunger valve every time, that just ensures that's another problem that you're not going to have to worry about. So put that over there, and let's get the TV cable, the TV line out of here. We're going to throw that spring away, get an updated spring, and pull our throttle valve out of the bottom there. There we go. We're also going to put a spring back on the bottom of this, so we're also going to put the small spring on the bottom of this so the transmission downshifts properly. Pull our spring out of there, and we want to check this one as well. That one doesn't look too bad. Pull this one out and actually check it. Oh yeah, that one's got some walk as well, you can see it. So we're going to throw that one away as well. So I'm going to put all the parts that need to be replaced over here on this table, and then we'll do a conglomeration at the end, and I'll give you guys an idea of how much it's going to be to get this thing back together and running right. Now these are all 13 millimeter, and there's one key thing with even these bolts. There's O-rings on the back of them. If you don't replace these O-rings, it will leak, and you will have to take it back out, take the converter back out of it, take these bolts free, and replace those. So it's best if you go ahead and replace them. They come in the kit. As long as you don't cheap out on a kit, go the extra mile, guys. You know how we roll. Okay. Bolts are out of your pump. You got your seal out without damaging your pump casing. We're gonna pop this case out, or pop this pump out now, just like so. I'm not being rough with it. And this right here looks like it's freaking worn out. That freaking O-ring's been there for a long time. All right, here's your transmission pump. I'm sure this gasket's gonna be stuck in here as well. And we're just gonna deal with that in a minute. These are 13 millimeter as well. Let's inspect your transmission pump. Now, I've got my hand under it. This is gonna fall. Now you can pull your bolts out. And somebody's rebuilt this before because somebody's rebuilt this before, but this was a long time ago because they don't come in the kit like that anymore. They're blue, and the white ones are for the 4L60E, so it's been a long time since I've seen a white Teflon ring on a pump stator like that. So it looks like it was rebuilt at one point in time. Probably before, maybe 1995, I don't know, we'll see. The pump looks okay. You got a little scoring there. I don't feel anything with my finger. You can normally feel something there with your finger or with your little pick. And you'll have some light, I can feel some light scratches. Nothing too crazy though. Now another thing is this boost valve here. I always go back with a 500 thousandths boost valve that raises the line pressure up, and I go back with a stiffer pressure regulator valve that raises the line pressure up. These things need all the line pressure that they can get because they're so old, man. You got to freaking jack it to them because they don't last, and you gotta make them go into gear. You just got to make it work. That looks good. I'm going to wash it like that and do a vacuum test of the pressure regulator valve and this TCC valve over here. But I'm going to pull this. Let's pull this filter out here. There's some minor debris in the bottom, but nothing too wild. Alright, this is your pump rotor, and they always had a 10 vane on the auxiliaries. They used to have a small little puny 7 vane in the pre-auxiliaries. Fun fact, guys, you know, we're just hanging out today. There's your first retainer ring for your pump slide. I like to pull that rotor right out, and sometimes you can get those vanes to stick straight up. We don't reuse vanes here, so I'm going to go ahead and toss all of these into the scrapper. Now this retainer here is good for a stock build, and this looks to be okay too for a stock build, so we'll keep that on the shelf. But all my performance builds get a brand new pump rotor assembly, and the whole entire kit comes with new rotors or vanes and all that. I'm just going to throw those in there for now. Let's pop this spring out of here. Be careful, don't hit yourself in the face. There we go. And now your pump slides out. And there's two little seals on the side. And if you want to keep them, you can. Sometimes they can be hard to find. There's an orange one. Sometimes they're green. And then there's a black one right there hidden. So those two you can keep on the side there. And now your pivot pin, that comes out like so. Now you got a little spring in there you want to get out as well. If I can get it out. There we go. There she is. Don't forget your O-ring. Pull that off. Now you got a bare pump body, and you're going to want to replace that bushing in there too, but we'll do that once we get this thing cleaned up just a little bit. But that's overall a good pump. That's a good sign. That means his flex plate ain't bent. It means he's working with a good motor. Everything looks to be okay on that end. I just think he tried to put it in there and drive it. You know, he didn't set his TV cable right maybe or something. Plus, he's putting it behind a 550 horsepower engine, and this thing's built for stock. As far as I know, it may have had a better PR valve in it and a better PR spring, but there ain't no Corvette servo in it, and that band is roasted, son. So, yeah. You gotta put a Corvette servo in there. It freaking locks that band in there a lot tighter. So that's another thing going in the scrapper. Back in the parts section. Make sure you get your plastic pump washer that goes on top of your reverse drum here. Let's inspect the reverse drum clutch pack, and I'll give you an idea what a new friction looks like versus one of these crappy ones here. Yeah, so this transmission's got some miles on it. Now these don't look overall too bad, and I'll give you an example on what they look like new. Now over time, these reverse frictions normally don't take too much abuse. They just get discolored, and it gives you a good idea of how old the transmission is. Once they've got discoloration here around the teeth, you've known it's been in there for a few years, 5 or 6 years or so, maybe 10. There's an outer ring here that indicates it's sat for a while. So this transmission wasn't full of fluid at one point in time, and these frictions look like they actually kind of discolored the steels just a little bit. So that's a little fun fact. Here's what a new friction looks like, and we can do a dial caliper, you know, comparison, but they look about the same, and they look like that the other ones were Borg Warner as well. But definitely rebuilt at some point in time, but it's definitely been a while ago. Maybe rebuilt twice. It's always hard to tell, and if there's not a hardened sun shell in there, I would say it was probably rebuilt in the early 2000s. I would take a wild guess and say that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just got back. We're gonna tear the rest of this transmission down. Pardon if I don't get maybe all of this correct. It's about 1:30 in the morning. I'm just trying to make some content for you guys with this new camera. Super pumped, can't even sleep. I'm down here making content with my buddy Sean at 1:30 in the morning. I've got our forward input drum here. Let's get into the organs of this drum. 3 and 4 clutch pack is torched. Now, he said that he had an issue with the TV cable. 3 and 4 is normally the first thing to go out in these things when the TV cable fails. When the lower piston here is applying the clutch pack here, which is the bottom piston in the bottom that I'll show you in a second, it's not getting enough line pressure to hold these pistons onto this ring gear, and it's wrapping it around because the line pressure is not pressurizing that piston enough to hold that clutch pack. That's why you've got to go with all the updated plungers, the boost valve, and all that to make sure that the line pressure is where it needs to be, especially in the third circuit. So here's your 3 and 4 clutch pack, and as you can see, it is pretty much roasted here. And I'll give you an idea of what that's supposed to look like in just a second. But you can see it's kind of bent up. And it's marred its way into these steels here. So 3 and 4 clutch packs out. Next is your forward clutch pack, and it looks like it's blistered too, just by judging by the clearance on top there. Snap ring out. Nope, they're not gone, but I want to check that clearance. That clearance did not look right. Bro, it's freaking 1:30 in the morning. I'm freaking hyped up. Me and Sean are figuring out this new camera. I'm freaking pumped. I'm about to take this forward sprag apart, look at that, and then I'm gonna show you how to pop this snap ring out to get your lower pistons out of your forward drum and your reverse drum. Then we're gonna get into the lower part of this transmission, sun shell, planetaries, and the lower reverse clutch pack. We're almost done with this thing, but we'll be back at you tomorrow with the build video. Let's get into this sprag. There's a little snap ring that holds this thing in there. You want to get a screwdriver in there and pop it thing free. Looks like somebody got it in a bind or something. And it's a single cage. No, it's double cage. Double cage. We'll keep that. And we'll pull these off there too. That's a good sprag. We'll put that back in a stock bill. We'll get him a new one. But that's a rare find right there. Normally these things are roasted, burn up, so that's awesome. I'm not sure I have that snap ring, but I've got plenty of those. We'll toss that in the repair bin. Sprag's good. All right, now we're gonna pull our step stool over here, or down step press rather. And here's that shim I was talking about. And a lot of times you want to make sure it's matched. There's a little number there. I always go back with a 69 or a 70 on all of them. I've never put like a 73 in. I've never really had an issue with that. Okay, there's a little snap ring to hold this on. If you guys watch my videos, you know what I'm talking about. Spring, or on the spring perch rather. You'll see that snap ring exposed now. Get your snap ring pliers in. You want to be gentle. It can be a booger. We got it out, but it rolled under the stool. We got it. We're good. Now, sometimes these pistons can be hung in there quite tight, actually. So we'll pop our spring perch out, and your overrun piston will just slide out of the top like that. And you're going to want to take this drum and find some concrete or something hard. I'm not abusing parts, I promise you. You guys say, oh, you're hitting parts on the ground and all that. These transmissions take more abuse in these freaking vehicles than I'm doing here in this shop, I promise you. So lightly, just let it fall under its own weight. That's it, nothing big. Look, now all your pistons are out in a stack. We'll set this over here for a second. And we're going to inspect these pistons to see what our lip seal or seals look like, rather. Now, these seals don't look too bad, and they're not hard. They're not too brittle. A lot of times when the transmission sits out in the weather, these things get brittle over time, and then you have fluid bypass, and it doesn't hold line pressure like it needs to. So these look okay. We're not going to reuse them. I don't reuse seals here. I don't reuse anything here, hardly. Now you can see now on the lower part of that how this 3 and 4 piston here started to wear slowly. The lower part of that piston is exposed, and that lip around this seal here has been slowly worn down over time, and that's part of the reason why these things fail. So we'll pull these off. We're going to throw them in the trash. And there's one more little O-ring in the bottom we've got to get off. That's got to be replaced. And then we've got to press our input shaft out. And we've got to Loctite this, and we've got to press it back in. We're going to clean this up with a little wire brush and some brake cleaner. Let's pull this up. This little, get in there, Sean, or not, but it's right here. Alright, I got it out. Just gotta get the 90 on it. There you go. There's all your pistons. sprang. That looks good. Now, let's get into this thing just a little bit further and finish up this video. We have established that the 3 and 4 clutch pack was burnt up. The 4 clutch pack was not burnt up. Blah, 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 blah. It's late, guys, sorry. Overrun frictions were okay. Oh, let me show you guys real quick. That's right. These look like they're stock from the factory, like they've just been reused before. Or, like I said, early 2000s. Same thing with these. You don't really see these kind of frictions anymore. They're super thin. These things are super, super thin. So, like, they've been worn down over time. Let me get you another one to give you an idea what I'm talking about. Now, I could put this on a micrometer, but I mean, you can probably see just from the camera how much thicker a new friction is versus an old after 70,000 miles or so. I would say 70,000 maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell with some of these, it really is. Alright, let's dive back in. Now you got your forward sprag gear here that sits inside of your planetary. You got 2 bushings in here, but you always want to inspect to make sure there's no hard scrapes, bruises, anything that would give you the indication that this is dragging on the output shaft in any way. That looks good. Move these things over here. I'll go through these steels in a minute. We're going to keep the wavy, the bottom the bottom plate and the top plate. And this 3 and 4 clutch pack needs to go somewhere. And I don't have my scrap bin in here. God dang it. Crap! We'll be right back. We're on. There's a little snap ring in there. Sean, if you zoom in and follow the tip of my seal pick, you'll see the 2 edges there. See the bugger? Pro. If you can come in my shop and do that, you can have a job. Literally. Now here's your upper planetary. You want to make sure your bearings in good condition there. And this is your brass washer that goes on to the back of your sun shell. That looks to be in good condition. You want to shake this a bit and see what it's got some knock in here. So this comes out, this little shaft comes out of this ring gear with this little snap ring here. And they make new ones, they make billet ones. This doesn't feel too horribly bad. And I think we might be able to get away with just replacing the top part here because it chews away at the spline teeth. I'm not sure what that pitch is called. I call it spline tooth. I don't know. Sounds like a damn dinosaur. Like, people think I know everything about these things, and I don't. Like, it's hard freaking a lot. Like, you can read all the books you want, but there's all the different transmissions are so different that it's hard to. Yeah, sometimes we just use our own terminologies. Here's your sun shell. 9 times out of 10, this is broken. It don't look like it's a hardened sun shell either. Normally you'll have some sort of marking here, like a JY or something like that, or a beast. Something will be stamped in the metal. This looks like a stock sun shell. So this probably would have broke pretty quickly anyway. This thing would have come apart pretty quick if he'd have put it in a vehicle. I'm glad he brought it to me. I'm so glad he brought this to me. Anyway, I digress. Now, your center support's next. Actually, I'll pull this sun shell gear out of here and we'll inspect it. This looks to be okay. Bushing in here looks good. I have a special screwdriver here with a little notch cut out, and this snap ring that sits around the center support inside of the case lugs here, you got to get in behind it and then pry it out. So I got that cut just like that to go in where I can rotate it out and then pop it out like that. I can get my finger in behind there and pop it the rest of the way out. And there you go. Now your transmission doesn't weigh all that heavy now, and you got to pop the center support out. Some people take a mallet to the output shaft. I like to just lift the transmission out. Make sure your speedometer gear's off of it and your governor's out of it, or your shear of the gear. Draw it out like that, then you can pull your output shaft out, your anti-clunk spring, and you might have a, well, you might have a case saver in there if you're lucky, but this is stock, so. Alright, planetary was good. Yeah, it's good, sorry. Slide this lower planetary off. There's your output shaft there. Here's your lower bearing. Here's your parking gear and your ring gear. You want to check these teeth and make sure no debris have gotten in between that and the planetary. This thing looks beautiful. This thing looks gorgeous. There's another bearing that sits on top of the lower reverse planetary. Pop it out. Lift this planetary out. A lot of times you'll have a lot of chatter marks here from the lower reverse clutch pack going out. That's not the case today. Now you want to check for side to side play, not necessarily up and down. Side to side is way more crucial. You're going to have a little bit of up and down play. This thing feels really nice. We have a really nice set of planetaries here. These planetaries can go right back into this and they'll hold 550 horsepower the way they are. Don't let anybody sell you a 5-penny planetary. It doesn't do anything. It's just a selling product. Sorry, guys. Anyway, there's your wavy. That's for the bottom there. Soften the low reverse shift there. Like when you're going, like I said, from park to drive, garage shift, that's low gear. And before, this wavy wasn't in the bottom. And so that was really abrupt. Along with your freaking the orifice on the forward piston. That's why we went with the, like I was talking about earlier, with the auxiliary port to soften that shift, just to go into freaking low gear right there from shift from park to drive. Just small things like changing this out to a wavy in the bottom of this and putting that auxiliary port to soften that shift just made these transmissions better, in my opinion. They could have went with a better boost valve assembly, but once you put a better PR valve in there and put a 500 thousandths in it, they're pretty good. People hate on these things, they really do. I mean, you put a constant pressure valve body in there, so you delete the TV valve, these things will freaking take off. And the only reason why they're not durable is because this freaking drum is aluminum, and you've got this, it's pressed into this aluminum, so you got to go back in here and Loctite it so it don't cross leak. This freaking aluminum's a bad day. Sonex makes a smart drum that's like 1,500 bucks. I mean, if you want to build a 4L60E or a 700 to hold that much horsepower, you might as well do a 400 or a 4L80E or something better. These things are awesome for cruising. Anyway, these things look stock. They weren't burned up, so this thing was well put together, and I don't think he had his TV cable set properly when he put it in, and he just torqued the 3 and 4 clutch pack. I think this was a used transmission that he bought off of someone, and he put it in the truck, and it turned out not to be good. And I think the transmission was gone through at one point. But the low reverse clutch pack was stock, the forward clutch pack was stock, 3 and 4 clutch pack was stock, and I mean there's a couple springs in the valve body that might indicate it had a shift kit in it, but overall I don't think this thing was built at all. We're going to pop this low reverse piston out of here with our tool. And overall, this is a good unit. We'll be back tomorrow to build this thing. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something and I wasn't boring. Have a good evening. See you.